All right, welcome back, and let's do our big stories now. And the Upper East region is something that they've been going through a lot of issues. For example, elephantiasis is a huge issue. That we'll be delving into that story here on the show as well. It's an interesting conversation that you'd want to stay with us. But let's talk about the Bank of Ghana issues. The Governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, has been giving, reasons as to why they recorded that 60.8 billion cedis loss. He's been explaining that it's because of, technical losses and not really because of mismanagement. Now, let's share with you what they have been saying at a press conference yesterday. Now, it says the Bank of Ghana's 2022 financial statement results reflect the crisis that hit the economy in that year, and not as because of their mismanagement. The statement also continues that if you look at the result of the prudent economic management, Bank of Ghana's profit in 2019 to 2021, this is how it looks like. Now, in 2019, they recorded a profit of 1.6 billion cedis. In 2020, it reduced to 1.5 billion cedis. So probably it should have told us that something, wasn't that right, because the profit margin was reducing. And then in 2021, Bank of Ghana recorded a profit of 1.4 billion cedis. Now, so after they recorded that, what was the impact of COVID and Russia-Ukraine war to, the Bank of Ghana's balance statement? Now, it says significant part of the annual borrowing was allocated to debt service and energy payment obligations. External debt service and energy payments increased to 4 billion annually as at 2020. So that was how much we needed to, service our debt and to pay for, our energy consumption. Bank of Ghana lost $500 million in external reserves in 2 months. So in 2 months, the Bank of Ghana lost $500 million. No new foreign financing until July, when Afrexim Bank stepped in to support with $750 million US. You remember the story, right? When we were in some crisis, and then the Afrexim Bank came to our aid. So that's what the Bank of Ghana is saying. Now, let's move on and tell you what more they have been sharing with us as well. Now, once we were in that crisis, the Bank of Ghana and the government turned to the IMF for support. Now, the Ghana approached IMF for support in July 2022, after economists had said you needed to go to the IMF earlier on. But Ghana said we weren't going to go to the IMF because we were okay. But when our balance of payment became something that was unsustainable, we knew that the only option was to go to the IMF. Now, IMF agreed that the Bank of Ghana provide necessary support to keep the economy running, because the economy could not, crash. So the BoG had to come in there. The BoG supported the economy until the IMF program concluded. This is testament of the resilience of the BoG as a lender of last resort. So that is the explanation the BoG is offering, that when we're in crisis, it was the BoG that supported the economy until the IMF came to our rescue. Despite losses incurred by households, banks, and financial institutions, threshold of 55% of GDP was not met. So that was a requirement for us to get the IMF program, that our debt to GDP was supposed to reduce to 55%. Now, the finance minister wrote to BoG with proposed 50% haircut on BoG holdings of government debt. The BoG acted in good faith for the broader interest of the economy. That's what the Bank of Ghana is saying, that's what they did. So, the Bank of Ghana's current financial state's condition will not impact negatively on the operations of the bank, because that's what some people have been saying, that it's a source of worry where we are. But the BoG is saying that no, you don't need to worry. Everything is under control. That our condition will not affect our operations. So that's what they are saying. But let's try and break these issues down. We're being joined by Professor John Gachi. He's Dean of the UCC School of Business, to help us analyze all of these issues and more here. We're also being joined by his counterpart in the, we'll be joined, we'll get him on the line as well, but we've been joined by Professor John Gachi. He is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast School of Business. Prof, good morning to you. Transall as well.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I'm sure you've apprised yourself with, the Bank of Ghana's justification of the 60 billion loss there. What do you make of their justification?
I think the justification is problematic. Losses are not events that do not happen to institutions. But how you explain the losses to your stakeholders matters a lot. That will carry your stakeholders with you to support you, expecting that it will turn things around. I think the governor tried to do that in part of the statement, which was good. But along the line, he went into the fray of trying to defend the indefensible. Now, number one, he claimed that the bank was not set up to make profit, so that if we do not exceed profit coming from the Bank of Ghana, we shouldn't worry. But at the same breath, he tried to project to us profit in 2019, profit in 2020, profit in 2021. For what reason? Then he went on to tell us that the financing of the new building they are putting up was from the appropriation of profit made in 2019, 2020, and 2021. So what is the governor telling us? So I think something happened in the Bank of Ghana, which the governor knows was actually not correct. We have gone overboard. The law is made in such a way that economic activities, financing activities will have to be put in the perspective of the law. The law is very clear. The 5% of a previous year's tax revenue can be lent to government. In times of crisis, let the finance minister, let the governor and the controller and accountant general meet and determine what is feasible to give to the government to finance the difficulty. We never heard these three people come out to tell us that because we're in crisis, we aren't going to use the 5%, we are going to use 20, we are going to use 30. They never said that. So they were just in the frail of lending money to government, providing support to government. Any request that the government made, they are ready to carry it on. Now, it is professional difficulty
Prof,
to see that.
As for that point, they say that the IMF asked them to support the economy in the interim.
Please, IMF is not the sovereign of this country.
Okay.
The sovereign of this country is structured in such a way that we have executive, we have the judiciary, and we have parliament. And parliament has been made to have oversight responsibility of our finances in the country. It's not a matter of IMF. It's a matter of whether you show fidelity to your laws. So, for IMF matter, let us not bring it into the discussion.
Okay.
So, going forward, I think you have taken away my thoughts a little bit, but let me go on. So, that is how the arrangement ought to be. But it seems independence, which should have determined that the Bank of Ghana is indeed the lender of last resort. And professionally, you should be doing any support to government with the eye on protecting that lender of last resort. Okay, now look at it. Bank of Ghana has has supported government activities to the extent that Bank of Ghana cannot set a 15 billion Ghana cedis to support ailing banks. Where is the protection of that lender of last resort? Bank of Ghana was financing activities that they claimed was legitimate, and they were not protecting their ability to ensure that their capital base is protected. And the audit report is saying that Bank of Ghana needs capitalization. So what is the professionalism to protect that lender of last resort? These are the issues that people are asking. Now, the Bank of Ghana is now saying that they made technical losses. There's nothing like technical losses. If you make loss, it's a loss. What is important about a loss is that you have opportunity to explain to your stakeholders for them to appreciate whether this is a one-off event that will go away within a year, within 2 years, within 3 years, within medium term or long term. So that is how losses are supposed to be identified and explained to the stakeholder. You don't come out and to say that we are not set up to make profit. That one we all know. But when you make profit, you are happy, you are allocating the profit to finance your new building. And you want us to believe that you're not in business to make profit. Therefore, any losses can be acceptable. No, there's nothing like technical losses. We all know the provision of IFRS 9. In fact, you also need to add 7 to 8 because that talks about the interest income and thereabout. We know the provisions on impairment, disclosures, and the rest. So you just apply the accounting standard and you make losses. So you should accept that you make losses on account of your operation. The investment that the Bank of Ghana made in government instrument is part of its operations, and they make losses, and that have been disclosed in line with the IFRS 9 and the impairment made. But the only thing we are saying is that if you look at the convoluted nature of governance and the Bank of Ghana being a public institution, if you are going to make impairment of your assets beyond a certain level, something should trigger you that you need to go to Parliament for Parliament to support that. That is where the beef is. So these are the issues that Bank of Ghana should address 8 months. But to say that the loss you have made is called technical losses, it doesn't affect your operations and the rest. For God's sake, the reason why we do financial statement analysis, we do reporting, etc., is to assure the stakeholder that the entity is managed well. And
but that's their point, isn't it? That they manage the institution well. The losses were not because of mismanagement, but it's because of what happened to the economy. And they're explaining that
the loss is as a result of mismanagement. I told you that the Bank of Ghana has opportunity to lend 5% or to support government about 5% of previous years' tax revenue.
That is true.
Now, in times of trouble, the three individuals, finance minister representing government, and the controller of accountant general, and the governor should determine. What have they determined? The law didn't say that in times of trouble they should just be supporting. They should just be supporting. No, that's not what our law says. So those are the issues we are saying. So if you are minded about the independence and your duty of last lender. You will not just be giving the money until it's finished. It is only when IMF came in that brake was applied and imposition was made on both government and the IMF not to borrow, because the IMF knows that the problem of central bank and part of the fiscal dominance that we have experienced is as a result of lending without recourse to the law. So that should be very clear.
But when the economy is in distress and it needs saving, must the law, be the supreme interest here when the economy is in distress?
The law is supreme. That's why the law make it so flexible for you that three of you meet and determine. And when you determine, what will you do? You go to parliament within 7 days. That's what the law says. And the parliament, you go and explain to parliament, and the parliament agrees with you, you come and implement. If parliament does not agree with you and you think that your position is superior, you do what is proper to convince them to agree. So it's just a violation, a spree that has happened. So nobody can say that the law has given them a chance to do whatever we want to do. No, that is a break. And that break is what we have not respected. And let all of us appreciate that we are not saying that in the life of an institution, you will not make losses. But to make a loss of 60 billion in 1 year is so colossal that if you are going to explain, you must explain to convince the people. You must not explain to tell the people that they don't know anything.
Prof, so are you not convinced by them saying that the finance minister wrote to the BoG with a proposed 50% haircut on BoG's holdings of government debt, and that is why this loss came about? It's because of the debt exchange program and not because they lost the money in trying to support government, isn't it?
Who told you that the Bank of Ghana cannot negotiate that proposal? It's not an imposition, it's a proposal. Who told you the Bank of Ghana cannot negotiate that to 20%? Who said that?
If they had negotiated, we couldn't have gotten the IMF deal, wasn't it?
No, who says that the Bank of Ghana cannot negotiate to get 20%? And who says that the central bank should be heavily exposed to government instruments? Of course, that is necessary, but you need to match your risk level to what you are doing. So it's as if we are trying to agree with the central bank that you can do anything. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. And to make a loss of 60 billion 1 year, and you are saying that it's just a technical loss, it's just a book loss. It is not true. Is the money from the debt exchange, are they going to recover it? So you don't come and then try to insult all of us by saying that it's a technical loss. Try to get us to be on the same page with you. Try to get us to be on the same page with you and stop the unnecessary justification. I like the bit that the governor says that they have plans to recover. They have plans to return to normalcy. They have plans to strengthen the role of the central bank. I like that aspect, but trying to say that you have not done anything, you are so angelic in the performance of your duty, I think is not the best. And
Prof, let's break it down. Let's break it down for people who are not, financially inclined as you are. When we say a technical loss in the perspective of the central bank, what does it mean?
I don't understand it because I feel it's just a word used to confuse the public. we know how financial statements are prepared. And if you are not interested in financial statement, then it's as well should be in income and expenditure. Okay. So I told you about the provision of IFRS 9.
Yeah.
And I will add IFRS 7 to it. We know what it tells us, the disclosure, the classification of asset, liability, the measurement, and then impairment, etc.
Yeah.
When those things catch up on you, they will eat into your profit and you come to losses. So you can't be calling it any other name. You can't call it any other name. And anybody who says that the financial situation of the central bank will not have a toll on the ability of the central bank to perform its duties might be joking. Might be joking. If they were not to make profit in 2019, 2020, 2021, how would they be financing the project they are doing? How would they be going for supervision, which they have quoted so much expenditure there? How would they be doing that? How would they be doing that? In any case, all the Bank of Ghana has done, has they disclosed to us the measures they have taken so far to protect the economy, the optimum inflation level they expected to attain. Have they attained that? Have they protected the reserves? So there are a lot of issues that we need to do. But I feel so sad that this banter is going on between the public and the bank, and for which the bank is relentless in trying to justify its position. I believe that we need to raise this matter for the Bank of Ghana to focus to do its work.
Okay.
Because the bank is so crucial to economic development, is so crucial to ensuring stability in the financial landscape. Right now, there is trouble in the financial landscape. We need to allow the Bank of Ghana to focus on that. But I believe they need to think proper and realize that they are not doing themselves good. As they come to give these explanations, it doesn't gel with people, and people will come up again, and the matter continues. And it's not good for a central bank to go into the headlines for more than a month. It's not the best.
Okay. What conditions must necessitate the writing off of debt, on the books of the central bank?
You see, if you take the financial reporting standard, especially 9, you think that it's so simple to do. I think that it's very simple when the government of Ghana is indebted to a private company. The government of Ghana can write to the private company, and the private company consider it, and if they are satisfied, they write it off. But when it comes to government and government institution, and that government institution need to have oversight from Parliament, and especially when the amount of money involved in the write-off is so huge. You see, it's only proper to realize that you need to go to another body to approve, and that is Parliament.
Okay.
So if government will just simply write to Bank of Ghana to write off, and they write off, what will government be doing? They write to the next SOE, they write to another SOE, they write to another independent institution that they are indebted to, and that is a messy situation. So I think the property was not done, and that is where the noise is about. Do you think that if the Bank of Ghana contacted Parliament and explained the peculiar situation to them, and Parliament agrees, now Parliament, Bank of Ghana, and government would have been on one side against the public? But now Parliament is not satisfied with the situation, and government and Bank of Ghana are on one side. So I think laws are made to be able to shape things and protect institutions and protect actions that are taken.
Okay.
So if you decide not to follow it, these are some of the problems that it creates.
So it means that Bank of Ghana would have been okay if it got Parliament to approve the writing off of the debt of government.
Yes, what will we be discussing? We can only shout, and that will be the end, because they have received the authorization.
Okay. Okay. Now, the Bank of Ghana is also saying that, it has sufficient capital amounting to about 15% of its total liabilities. And therefore, everybody should remain calm. You doubt the governor is saying?
The audit report supersedes the statement of the governor.
Okay.
Because when the audit was done, the governor was given chance to provide explanations, etc. Those explanations were not found to be the case. That is why we see those things in the audit report. So the audit report is telling us that the liabilities of Bank of Ghana is more than the assets of Bank of Ghana. That is what we know from the audit report. And the purpose of audit is to give us assurance that whatever the preparers of the financial statement, that is the directors of the banks and the top management of the Bank of Ghana, have prepared and presented to them. It is prepared in accordance with the standards, and the things that they have identified were explained sufficiently, and then it is acceptable. So for us to read something from the auditor report, and the governor is telling us something different now, I think that is problematic. That is problematic. The bit I like is that the governor is telling us that they have plan. Of course, that plan needs to be disclosed somehow to ensure that we limit the losses as we go along. I think that is the explanation we should be giving.
So is it your fear that in all the assurance that the governor is giving, the Bank of Ghana may not be able to undertake its primary role as a result of what has happened?
What is the primary role of Bank of Ghana?
It has to develop monetary policies.
Price stability, economic development. So what is the result of the price stability effort? It has moved us into 43% inflation. Exchange rate has moved us from 60 days to around 1150. Interest rate, I think, has moved us from around 14.5% to around 30% policy rate. Lending rate is high. So is it the case that the crisis without the intervention of Bank of Ghana should have led us to 70% inflation, 80% interest rate, exchange rate of 25 cedis to the dollar, and through the intervention, they have been able to get what they have for us. So that will help us to determine whether what they have done has yielded any result. Look at the reserve side. It's fragile. So what at all has the policy mandate of the Bank of Ghana achieved significantly? I think that ought to be explained. We don't need to just say that we are policy solvent. Policy solvent how?
All right. So going forward, what must we do to ensure that the Bank of Ghana is saved from all of this? We know that in the next couple of years, there will be, the IMF says, zero financing of government budget. Beyond that, what must be done so that we don't come back to this whole development again?
I think we need to state emphatically that, you see, the Bank of Ghana is a sovereign institution. And we can't have a Bank of Ghana that will not support government activities. That one I think it is something that IMF is imposing, which is not practicable. They did the same thing in 2015, and the wisdom displayed by Parliament put it at 5% instead of they desiring that it should be 0%. So Parliament put it at 5%. And I do not think that we should pass a law to make it zero, financing. No. By all means, you need the Bank of Ghana support in financing activities of government.
Okay.
But what has been the situation is that the situation is the issue of independence of the central bank. Central bank is not independent. So the moment the small pressure by the finance or the fiscal authorities, they bow. So if we have a central bank that is actually independent and focus on in-professional mandate,
okay,
you cannot be financing everything for the IMF to put it into this situation. So it's because we are not obeying the law, that is the reason why the central bank is asked to do zero financing. And I'm emphasizing that the IMF knows that that is the single most important cause of our problem. So that is why they want to stop that. But it's against our sovereignty. And I don't think the parliamentarian to buy into that.
Well, so how do we ensure the independence of the central bank if that's a problem we need to deal with?
That one is about the governors and the directors. That is the job they have to do.
But a governor is appointed by a president who has, a government that is in charge of an economy to run. So the governor will definitely have some soft spot for the president because he appointed him. Isn't that the case?
See, if you look at the structure of the laws of Bank of Ghana about the appointment and removal of the governors, you realize that it is protective of the governors.
Okay.
It is made in such a way that you don't fear anything in applying the principles of independence. Because if the position is not protected, it is then that you will say that if I do this, if I don't bow, if I don't comply, I'll be sacked the next day. But nobody can sack any governor by announcing that I've sacked him. No, nobody can do that. There are processes, and those processes are so stringent, and it demands a lot of proof to be able to remove a governor. So the law has made it possible for the governors to act independently. And if they are not acting independently, that one is their own problem.
No, but if their own problem gets all of us into the situation we find ourselves, then we can no longer sit and watch on for them to keep doing that. So then there needs to be a way we can ensure the independence of the central bank. Is there no way?
Independence of the central bank is solidified, is protected through the appointment of the directors, through the appointment of the governors. And their position is so that you cannot remove them by any means at all. You must only remove them by stated reasons, which are verifiable and through a process. And that alone should be enough to tell you that you have a protection at your back. It should be bold to tell the finance minister that this request that you are making will have this repercussion on us, and that we are sorry we are not able to meet it. That is how it is. I don't know how else we can protect the governance to be able to function, unless the political parties have something else. They are threatening them in private, and they feel that if they don't do it, they are coming to kill them, etc. Perhaps that is the only reason why we can engage in this kind of lack of independence that we have observed.
Well, if they had, you earlier said that the request by the finance minister for the bank to, get us that 50%, they should have lobbied and beaten it down to say 20%. That could still have not allowed us to get the IMF, and the economy would have been in dire straits as we speak. Where we are now is better than where we were about 4 months ago. Shouldn't we consider the health of the economy in such instances than to say that we want the central bank to have a positive outturn and so, look, beat it down, even if it's going to cost the economy?
I think you're not getting me.
Okay, let me get you.
I didn't say that we want the central bank to get a positive outcome by all means. What I'm saying is that a central bank can record losses.
Yeah.
And those losses will be explained. In fact, if it's not even huge, people will not take note of that and start questioning. So losses can indeed exist, but it might have reasons why the losses occur, and those reasons should resonate with the stakeholders. But now the reason is not resonating with the stakeholders. So that is one. Then the other one is that all these things would have had a shield or protection for the central bank if we were to seek parliamentary approval.
Okay.
We will not be discussing what we are discussing today if everybody realized that Parliament has approved what the central bank did. In fact, when you put together all the statements the central bank is giving, they are conflicting one another. The one they just released before this one is conflicting. So I think that is just that we are saying.
Okay. All right. So that's Professor John Gachi. He's Dean of the University of Cape Coast School of Business. Prof, so from where we are now, what would be your recommendation to the governor himself as to how, he can turn the things around for the central bank?
I think that is his job. He should articulate that. I think he has indicated that there are plans to, gradually ease the negative that we have recorded. He has plans to protect the central bank. Sometimes the plan cannot be in your mind. If we go to the website of the Bank of Ghana, we need to see some of those things trickling down, not the old things that we have seen.
Okay.
All the Bank of Ghana should be magnanimous a little bit to open up to tell us what is being done to ensure a particular roadmap for the Bank of Ghana. I think I stated that statement that we are not created to make profit shouldn't have been made, because you have already shown that profit is so good for you and you are using it to build a new office, and you have demonstrated to us that you have profit, etc. So I think that's all that I can say.
On the new building, he said it was started about, I think 3 years ago, and it wasn't during the times of crisis, else they wouldn't have taken that decision. So I think that should be it for the building, isn't it?
Well, I'm not the one raising the financing of the building. There are people who are raising the financing of the building. They have procurement issues. They have the actual cost that is being disclosed in the report. They think that the actual cost is more than that. So I don't want to speak for those people. But what I am saying is that profit is so vital to the Bank of Ghana. Without profit, the Bank of Ghana will not be putting up that structure, as explained by the governor itself. So profit is good for the bank. So we shouldn't come out and be saying that we all know that you are not made up, you are not established to make profit. But profit is what has kept you all this while.
All right. So that's by way of so Prof's point is that the BoG should have gone to Parliament to seek for permission. For Parliament to then grant it the go ahead to honor the request by government. If they had done this, he argues that we wouldn't have been where we are today, where we're talking about these laws, because it would have been with the express permission of Parliament, which is the House of Representatives for you and I. What do you make of this? Go onto our Facebook and leave your comment there. I'll share it with the rest of our viewers. So, Prof, I'm grateful to you for sharing with us your thought on the Bank of Ghana's activities. Grateful. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.
So that's Professor John Gachi. He is the Dean of the School of Business, University of Cape Coast. Now, it's interesting, how all of these issues are coming up. But what do you think of this development and the conversation we've had with Professor John Gachi? On our Facebook page, you can leave your comment there, and we would share it with our viewers as well. Now, let's turn our attention to our second conversation, where in the Upper East region of Ghana, they are recording the highest number of elephantiasis, according to the Ghana Health Service. There have been about 2,373 confirmed cases of elephantiasis in the region, accounting for about a third of the total national cases. Why is this the case? We have expert joining us to discuss this right after the break. Stay with us.